In front of us was a beautiful assistant patiently waiting to welcome us into the building, and in front of us was a well-trained team that was busy but not chaotic. The man's name is Rankin Fitch, played by Gene Hackman. He is a senior legal consultant who specializes in providing jury screening services to large companies such as firearms and tobacco. He is skilled at gathering large amounts of information, pandering to others, and using threats and coercion to ensure that most judges who enter the trial are biased towards their employers or are forced to vote for him. More than a decade ago, Fitch's team had manipulated juries to win lawsuits for gun companies several times, and he had sufficient funds. And that's just a fraction of the cost of the operation. This time, he is confident in facing the bosses of the Gun Crocodile Alliance, ready to select and control his own jury again. They send people to directly contact and monitor and track people. After collecting a large amount of data, they will analyze it and learn about the background, weaknesses and vulnerabilities of each person, and then bribe or threaten them. The lawyer team provided advanced monitoring equipment to ensure every image is transmitted to the next door of the court in real time. The subject of this lawsuit is a case in which a madman who was dissatisfied with his former employer randomly shot in an office building with a fully automatic weapon, killing 11 people and injuring 32 people. The wife of one of the victims decided to sue the gun company in great grief. This tragedy shocked the whole country. After nearly a year of preparation, the justice lawyer Wendell Rohr, played by Dustin Hoffman, took over the case. Rohr's secret weapon is a high-ranking defector from a gun company with a strong sense of justice, who will be present to testify. The gun company's deliberate negligence caused dangerous weapons to fall into the hands of a madman. The plaintiff and defendant's teams launched a full-scale contest and competition inside and outside the court, and finally determined the 12 jurors and alternate jurors who entered the trial. At this time, Nicholas Easter, played by John Cusack, a man who was selected for the jury, was celebrating excitedly with Marley, played by Rachel Weisz, in a shabby apartment. Marley also had complete information on the 12 judges in front of her. The two discussed that this trial was worth at least $10 million, and what they needed were 8 comrades. In the abandoned jury investigation list, Mick came to this city 9 months ago and is now a salesperson in a shopping mall. This man has a blank past. The lawyer was unwilling to choose this overly simple man. On the day of the jury selection, Mick was very anxious to leave to participate in a video game competition with a prize of $100,000. The judge reprimanded Nick for this behavior, but this harmless performance was first recognized by Rohr. Fitch was unwilling to waste its precious veto power, and accepted Nick as a jury. The time for the jury's lunch would be 1 o'clock. Nick had already sent a message to Marley in advance to change the time to 2 o'clock. Marley then notified the restaurant in the name of the court that the judge would delay the trial and the meal delivery time was changed to 2 o'clock. When the jury was starving and complaining, Mick immediately flowed out of the courtroom and found the judge, who was having dinner in a high-end restaurant opposite the court. Mick clearly explained the situation to the judge that everyone was hungry. The judge had no choice but to invite all the jury members to have dinner in the restaurant at Nick's suggestion. Immediately during the afternoon trial, the disguised Marley handed over 2 identical envelopes, which contained the auction slips for the jury's items at a discount. Rohr believed that this was a trick by the defendant to induce him to ask the judge for a mistrial. The analysis team tried hard to avoid an invalid trial because of a promise made to a pair of financial sponsors. Both of them received a call from the auction jury. The woman on the other end of the phone called herself Mary. Claims she has the ability to influence the outcome of the trial. Faced with their suspicion, the woman proposed to prove her ability to them through patriotism. The riddle was revealed during the trial the next day. A story was immediately made up before the trial began, saying that today was the anniversary of the death of a comrade in arms, and that something should be done today to commemorate those who died for their country. The friendly white fat lady suggested that everyone recite the familiar American oath together before the trial began. When this move came out, even the judge was stunned. The big boss behind the scenes urgently summoned Fitch and asked him to deal with it properly. Disabling the rich is a threatening way of expressing one's dissatisfaction. Fitch attached great importance to this incident. After carefully studying the on-site video, he discovered the actions of comforting and being comforted. The target was pointed at Nick. He arranged for investigators to search Nick's apartment and even took away Nick's computer hard drive. Unexpectedly, the judge adjourned the court early today and Nick returned to the apartment immediately. Arriving at the apartment, Nick ran into the burglar who immediately fled. Nick had to restrain himself and smashed a car window. Nick went back to the apartment and triumphantly pulled out the hard drive that had captured everything on the hidden camera. After this action of the burglary at Nick's, Fitch soon received a phone call from Mary. Mary makes it clear that this action would soon have consequences for Fitch and would miss one of his jurors. The next day, Nick pretended to be hungover from the previous night. He made his eyes blurry, his hair messy, and sat next to the drunk lady on purpose. The kind-hearted lady suggested fighting fire with fire. Nick deliberately dropped the bottle and kicked it off the table. The judge called him in for a lecture. Nick took all the responsibility, but the judge thought that this was a way to get out of being a jury. The lady was subsequently dismissed as a jury. Fitch was very angry and called a general meeting of all staff. He asked to uncover the deepest secrets of all jury members. Soon they had found a woman who had cheated on her family and secretly had an abortion. And another woman's husband is an unscrupulous developer, and Fitch's team set a trap to get her husband to bribe officials. During the trial, Nick found 3 people distracted because they were being manipulated by Fitch. But Nick's actions of observing the jury were noticed by Rohr's newly hired assistant. On Nick's stolen hard drive they discover 2 notable files. One is the voter list of different cities in Cincinnati, and the other is the old surveillance video backup. They also see that there must be another hard drive, so they send someone to find it. 2 men search Nick's apartment thoroughly, even tearing down the wall. Eventually they find a second hard drive hidden under the floor. When they leave the apartment they set it on fire. When they left they walked past Rohr's investigator outside who was also watching Nick's apartment. What's worse is that after being threatened, the woman who had an abortion and lied to her family couldn't stand the pressure and took a bottle of sleeping pills in the bar. She was found by Nick and sent to the hospital. Nick returned home in disappointment and found that his apartment was burned down. He saw that the hard drive had also been stolen. After everything that had happened, Nick is worried about Marley's safety. The 2 decide together to take immediate action. Marley also took the initiative to make an appointment with Fitch to meet. Fitch came to the restaurant early, and as a distraction a blonde woman sat in front of him so that photos could be taken. After saying hello, the girl immediately stood up and left the restaurant. Then, a waiter handed Fitch a note. After seeing the note, Fitch immediately got up and got on the tram according to the instructions. At this time, Marley was already waiting for the tram. Fitch offered Marley $500,000 to stop her, but Marley refused and offered $10 million instead. Afterwards, Marley also took the initiative to find Rohr. Their meeting was monitored and Fitch people took pictures. Marley also proposed the same idea and then left quickly. At this time, the Fitch team found the pseudonymous unit from all the shooting case files corresponding to the computer selection list. In that case, although Nick entered the preliminary list, he was not included in the jury and was abandoned. After receiving this information, Fitch immediately put a team on a plane to find out what's going on with Nick. The old landlord of Nick had a letter from the university addressed to a man named Jeff. Following this clue, the team found out Nick's real identity, Jeff, at the university. A series of dramatic developments also took place in the trial at this time. Rohr, key witness, mysteriously lost contact before appearing to testify. From the look in his opponent's eyes, Rohr knew that it was Fitch who was behind the scenes. Angry, Rohr blocked the bathroom. Rohr asked Fitch, but the man didn't care about the trial or the jury at all. The 2 continued to argue with each other but could not reach an agreement. Later, The boss of the gun company appeared to testify, but was completely defeated by Roar's series of carefully prepared questions. The boss of the arms company was so angry that he said that Fitch must pay $10 million for the successful outcome. Fitch meets with Nick and has a heated discussion. After a heated argument, Fitch agreed to pay $10 million to an account in the Cayman Islands. His real purpose in doing so was to paralyze his opponent. At this time, the killer has gone to Marley's apartment and waited there for Marley. Fitch was already in bed waiting for a call from the killer. Fitch is very surprised when he hears Marley's voice. And Marley increases the $10 million to $15 million. After this, Marley calls Nick and indicates that she is afraid. Marley's face was swollen, her eyes were bruised and bloody, and she said this with pain all over her body. Before she said this, she had experienced a desperate fight. The powerful and tall opponent hit her head, grabbed her neck, threw her against the wall, broke the wooden board, but she fought back and tried to escape, finally almost fainted. But she managed to escape by ramming a large wood splinter into his opponent's thigh. The last day of trial began, and the court entered the closing argument stage. At this time, Fitch's investigation team spoke to Nick's professor, whose real name is Jeff, and got his girlfriend's address, then they drove there by car. At this point Marley has Roar on the phone, who says she has the $10 million but has decided not to pay it. Roar thinks it is unprofessional ethics and trust in the law more important. All these conversations were monitored by Fitch's monitoring team. Fitch negotiated further with Marley and soon $15 million was paid to the bank in Cayman. Jeff received the information immediately. At this point the man from Fitch's investigation team was cordially invited by Marley's mother. The man had pretended to be someone who wanted to buy the house next door. The mother told him about a shooting incident that had taken place in the town. Marley's sister died in a school shooting when Nick was unable to protect her. And the town took the gun manufacturer to court in a lawsuit that Fitch himself argued. The town bankrupted its treasury after losing the case to Fitch. But this information comes too late. Fitch has already paid the $15 million. At the end of the day the jury delivers its verdict and the gun manufacturer is found guilty and has lost. Fitch was very surprised and felt defeated. The boss of the weapons company looks very angrily at Fitch. Fitch leaves very angrily the courthouse and into an area bar. There, he is confronted by Nick and Marley, who show him a copy of the wire transfer of $15 million. They tell him that he is to retire immediately, or they will fax the transfer document to the IRS, who will be likely concerned about such a large amount of money. Fitch asks what they intend to do with the money and gets the answer that the $15 million will be given to the town of Gardner, Indiana, since they went bankrupt after losing their case. Outside the bar, they see Wendell Roar. Roar recognizes Marley and knows it's Nick with her. They smile at one another without saying a word. The movie ends with Marley telling Nick she wants to go home. Nick agrees, knowing their job is done.